Durkin. Now back to the East Coast, where this week the Philadelphia district attorney called President Trump, quote, a wannabe fascist, and said he will charge federal agents sent to the White House if they break the law. Joining me now is DA Larry Krasner. DA Krasner, some would say calling him a wannabe fascist is a very strong statement. How do you back it up?
Well, I think I might have hurt his feelings by saying wannabe, if you want to know the truth. I mean, this is a president who spends about half his time telling us that Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un are good, strong men. And look at his language now. He's telling law enforcement to, quote, dominate, unquote. That's basically a code word for everything that has gone wrong with police accountability in this country. And it is entirely consistent with his comments about banging the heads of suspects on the top of the door frame of a patrol car. He is openly and blatantly over and over and over in almost every single way trying to convey the notion that he is an authoritarian leader, that he is a strong man, as the fascists like to say. And all of this is being done according to the usual fascist playbook, which is we are actually going to provoke unrest, and then we're going to blame the people we have affronted by shooting them with supposedly non-lethal, means that break their skulls, by dragging them off the streets, requisitioning them into anonymous vans with undesignated forces, without names of people. He's provoking the situation so that he can say, look at these people who are protesting. They are animals. This is the fascist playbook. He is a wannabe fascist.
When we hear him playing the rhetorical card of they are going to destroy your suburbs, they're going to invade your suburbs, a blatant fear tactic to what many are calling the suburban white women, even in an era when, if we get factual, gentrification is happening where a lot of the suburbanites are actually moving in the inner city. So it's even in terms of being fact-based off. But the fact is he's really playing to the race card here from a white supremacist mentality that he thinks is still dominant among people in the suburbs that have said overwhelmingly to polls they support the Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh, politically, I think this is a massive miscalculation. It may be that part of his approach here, his hope, is that he's going to desensitize people to the idea of this kind of militaristic response in the street. There's been a lot of speculation about whether his intention is, A, to steal the election that's coming up in about 100 days, and B, if he can't steal it, it's to steal it the other way, which is without leaving office. I hope not, and I have to tell you, I don't think the U.S. military will put up with that at all. But I am here to tell you that there's going to be 200 million people to escort him out of office if he manages in any way to corrupt the military so that he can come up with a scenario not to leave. And among those 200 million Americans escorting him out of office, there's going to be an awful lot of women from the suburbs, white women, black women, all kinds of women from all over. He is going to go. He is going to go, and he needs to get used to that idea.
What do you, as the DA in Philadelphia and your own town or city, and what do you suggest others do to prepare to make sure there is no interference or, as you have just named it, stealing the vote in November, not only for Trump, but for any of those forces that want to play games with undermining people's right to vote?
Well, first, we have to register the vote. We have to, at every level, protect the right to vote. There are going to be so many efforts to prevent the vote because the truth is Trump is afraid of it. And then we have to be very, very clear that this country is united, that we are going to have a democratic transition, that the person who wins this election is going to be the person who becomes the president. We have been here before. My dad volunteered, along with most of my uncles, to serve in World War II, to fight fascism, and they did that, as so many others did, so we would not have an American president who thinks it is okay to brutalize the population, to run up and down with a military force, with tear gas, materials and things that are not even permitted in warfare, and to ignore the Constitution. Every one of us in the United States has an obligation to uphold the Constitution. I have a sworn obligation to uphold the Constitution, and we are going to do that.
You have called for the release of prisoners during the coronavirus epidemic that we're dealing with. Explain, and where are we in your judgment in those release of prisoners? Clearly, many of us in the civil rights community agreed with it. I even called President Trump on this issue early in the pandemic, and he did return the call and made no commitment. And I've not seen evidence that there's been the type of release everywhere that we would want. How do you deal with this? Where do you gauge it now? And why did you make the call in the first place?
Well, Reverend, I think in almost every major city, chief prosecutors have had to deal with the reality that the equation on whether someone should be in custody is no longer simply public safety from crime. It's also an equation of public safety from a lethal pandemic. And so we had to engage in a different balance. In Philadelphia, that meant that we are currently in our county custody system down to 4,000 people, which is the lowest level of incarceration in the city since 1985. Every bit of data I have seen so far indicates it is not posing an additional threat to public safety in terms of crime, but that it is lowering the possibility of our county jails being a hot spot. At one point, approximately 9 out of 10 hotspots in the country were custodial facilities. The states have not responded as quickly as many of the cities. And as you might expect with, President Trump, there's a lot of words and not a lot of action when it comes to release from federal facilities. This is an incredibly important issue now, but also it is an incredibly important moment in the history of our country because we are the most incarcerated country in the world, because we never should have been, because these wrong-headed policies got us here, the same policies that are comfortable with a president who acts like a wannabe fascist, who has white supremacists at his rallies, who says there are good people on both sides. That guy, someone who says NASCAR shouldn't have gotten rid of the Confederate flag, he's comfortable with the Confederate flag. You know, it all comes from the same place. And this country is ready to go a different direction.
Well, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner.